course, that person could have sharpened their pencil while I was talking. Just saying. It looks like number 1, they want me to find A. What else have they told me? Well, I would probably either physically or at least mentally underline at rest. And I would say, okay, VI is 0. D equals 18. T equals 4. I'm looking for an equation that has A, VI, D, and T in it. I think the equation that I would go with would be this one. Mr. Dewick, that's not an equation. Well, it is, because what's VI in this question? So I didn't bother writing the VIT. Yes, Jaden, here is yet another equation. Don't memorize it. Learn to derive it by realizing how zeros work. And I'm trying to get the A by itself. I think I would go like this. Times by 2. I would divide by 1, but will the 1 make a difference at all, Drake? Okay. And I guess I would divide by, here, I don't think I've given you this one before, T squared. I end up with this. A equals 2 times D divided by T squared. I don't know if that one showed up in the homework or not. 2 times 18 divided by 4 squared. You know what? I think I can do this in my head. 2 times 18 is 36. 4 squared is 16. It's 36 over 16, which is going to be 18 over 8, which is going to be 9 over 4. 2.25? Yes? Woohoo! I can do math in my head. And it's an acceleration. So how would I mark this? If you got the right answer, Dylan, I don't care how much work you showed, you'll get 2 out of 2. If you got the wrong answer, if you forgot the units, I've taken a half mark off. If you got the wrong answer, I would give you 1 mark if I saw that you'd managed to get the A by itself, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. And I'm going to do that for the rest of the quiz, Justin. It's going to be, if you get the right answer, 2 out of 2. Otherwise, 1 mark for getting the letter by itself. And I've taken you 1 step further now. I'm not just saying, can you find which equation to use? Now, Evan, I'm saying, can you rearrange the equation as well? B says, find V final. Oh, yuck. Here's what I would like to do, Evan. I would love to go like this. The reason is the VF is by itself already. In fact, you know what? Really, I would love to just go like this. The reason is VI is 0. The VF is by itself. Now, the only risk is if I do that, I'm using A from part A. If I got part A wrong, I'm going to get part B wrong. But I'm lazy. You know what? I'm going to do both. This would be 2.25 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 0.25 times 4 is 1. 8 plus 1. I think it's 9 meters per second. But if I was writing a test, Cody, I would try and find V final from those things without using A. And there is one. It's this puppy. Although, Nick, what's VI? Okay. Then to get the VF by itself, I think I would times the 2 over, divide the T over. Drake points out I'd ignore the 1. And I think that would give me a new equation for V final when VF is 0. When VI is 0, I get 2 times D over T, which is going to be 2 times 18 divided by 4. Hey, that's also 9 meters per second. You'll notice, so 9, is 9 right? Yes? You're at a stage now, Simone, where you're going to find, especially if the question has 2 parts, that for the second part, Ethan, you'll have 3 or 4 ways you can find it. I don't care which way you use. On a test, I'll tend to use the data that they gave me. In the homework, when I'm lazy, I'll just use the shortest way. I guarantee in the homework, I would have done that. And I'll just hope that I did part A right. No, I'll be confident that I did part A right. Same as before, 1 mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer, but you got the right answer right, 2 out of 2. If you just said 9, Joseph, I'm fine. Why did I say 9.00? Because technically 3 sig figs, 3 sig figs, technically 3 sig figs. So I just subconsciously did that without thinking about it. Let's keep going. Number 2 says find A. It looks like they gave me VI. Looks like they gave me VF. Looks like they gave me T. Looking for an equation that has those by itself. Jared, you're up. Which equation has A, VI, VF, and T? I think this is the one you did last time you were here too, so I know you can get this one. Which equation has A, VI, VF, and T, and no D? Read it to me. Okay, so you ready? Can you get the A by itself in your head? I'll give you a hint. A equals. What's going to drop down like a domino? Ready, my friend? Right, that one. That's what you said. We're trying to get the A by itself. What's going to drop down like a domino? Always do that. Do that. If you're trying to do this in your head, do that first, because now you can stop keeping track of it. Then what? I need to move the VI over and the T, but I'll do the one that adds subtracts first. So what am I going to do with the VI? Yep. What am I going to do with the T? You get a little nerdy adrenaline rush? You should have. Okay. I know you're away, but this will be the last time I pick on you. What's VF? I listed it. Yeah, I listed it for you, right? What's VI? 1.5. Are you seeing why I'm so big on the listing the data? It really, if you do that, Cody, it really does become plug and chug. Time? I don't think I can do this one in my head. This one's going to be yucky. 8.6 minus 1.5 divided by 4.5. Oh, that's times, Mr. Duick. And 7. Wow, that's 2 typos. 8.6 minus 1.5 divided by 1.5. I'm going to go 1.6. I would take 1.58. I'd take a half mark off for 1.57 because I would say, wait a minute, next to the 7 is another 7. Round off properly, for Pete's sakes. So I'm going to go 1.6 meters per second squared. D. Part B, but part B wants me to find D. Well, here I could use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Although, Michaela, that would mean using my answer from part A. Or I'm gonna use 1/2 VI plus VF times T, because in both of them, Jaden, the D is by itself anyways, so there's no big time savings here. It's going to be 0.5, 1.5 plus 8.6 times 4.5. Again, don't copy this out. Try it yourself, right? Oh. You know what? That's totally smart. Do that. I should have thought of that. I guess technically 23 to 2 sig figs. I'm going to go 22.7. 22.7 what? Meters. Again, 1 mark for the, 2 marks if you got it right. 1 mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Evan, you good? Okay. Let's keep going. All the stuff that we can find now. Number 3, A. Asking me to find D. VI is 24. Evan, in number 3, what's VF? Meters per second what? That's a V? What's a meters per second? Okay, so what's VF? No, look up. What word did I underline? Yes. I know. You were zoning out. Sorry, you're back now? Yes? What'd you say that 3.8 was? I gotta be fussy. Why is that technically wrong? What other word did I underline? Huh? I'm gonna have to make it, because we're slowing down, I'm gonna have to make it negative, otherwise I'm gonna get weird answers on my calculator. Now, you're gonna find about half the time, Mariah, if you're slowing down in the homework, I'll put the negative in there for you, but once in a while I won't, just to keep you paying attention, make sure Evan's awake. Looking for an equation that has d, vf, vi, and a in it. Evan, which equation has d, vi, vf, and a in it? Yep. Can you get the d by itself in your head? What's going to drop down like a domino? What's not going to go anywhere? Squared. Then what? Are you going to do that first or last? So, I don't know. The VI squared? Yes. And then we're trying to get the d by itself. What's right next to the d? I think there's two things next to the d, isn't there? Okay. So, divide the 2a, right, to get the d by itself. There you go. It's going to be 0 squared minus 24 squared all over 2 times negative 3.8. 0 squared minus 24 squared all over 2 times negative 3.8. I get a positive answer, which is good, because even though I'm slowing down, I'm traveling forwards. 75.8? Is that right? People nodding? Yes, no? Yep. 75.8, and it's a distance meters. Excellent. Justin, what's B asking me to find when it says how long? Yep. Oh, you know what? There is an equation that has VI, VFA, and T in it. It's a nice one. Which equation has VI, VFA, and T in it? Can you get the T by itself? You're right. VF equals VI plus AT. Feeling lucky? Can you get the T by itself? What's going to drop down like a domino? What's not on the same side as the T? That's going to drop down like a domino. And then what? How will you move the VI over? Is the VI timesing the T? Right, we have this, kiddo. How will I move that guy over? What's the VI doing to the T? Plussing, so how will I move it over? What's the opposite of plussing? Yes. And then what's the A doing to the T? Timesing, how will I move that over? Yes. Good. So now it's plug and chug. It's going to be 0 minus 24 divided by negative 3.8. I hope I get a positive answer here. (6.31578). Can I go 6.3 seconds? And we turn the page. Let's pick up the pace a little bit. Cody, you ready? Because you're going to be up. Cody, what's 4A asking me to find? Okay. What do I know?
You know the velocity.
Which one?
Which one? 12 meters.
No. Which one? VI or VF?
VI.
Yep. What else do I know?
You know time.
Yep.
And you know distance.
Yep. I'm looking for an equation that has VI, VF, D, and T. This was probably tied for the toughest question on this quiz, because the equation is one of the yuckier ones. Which equation, Cody, my friend?
D
Yep.
equals VI.
Yep.
T plus half AT.
Squared. That's important, because that's going to totally change the answer. What are we trying to get by itself here?
We're trying to get a...
This one is tough enough that you'll notice I didn't say, can you do it in your head? Because this one is right around the threshold where I have to write it down. What are we trying to get by itself, Cody? Say it again. Okay, so what's going to drop down like a domino? What's not going anywhere?
D.
Yep. Then I'm going to do any adding or subtracting next. What am I going to add or subtract over?
You're going to
Yep.
subtract T something. VIT.
That whole thing, because isn't that whole thing
Yeah.
adding to the A? I know there's other stuff. Oops, don't do that. But I'm telling you, the VIT is adding, so I'm going to subtract it over. Now, don't write this down. Just use your imagination. That would leave me with a 0.5, an A, and a T squared. Don't write that down. Just imagine it there. What am I trying to get by itself?
A
What's the 0.5 and the T squared both doing to the A?
times
So how will I move both the 0.5 and the T squared over? I don't know if I've ever given you this one or not. But yeah, here is yet another equation. D minus VIT divided by 0.5 T squared. You could also, instead of a 0.5, written it as a fraction. What is 0.5 as a fraction? I just didn't because having a fraction inside of a fraction creeps kids out and scares them, so I made it a decimal. I'm serious. Okay, that's about as tough a formula manipulation as there is. Cody, let's plug and chug. What's D?
D would be 96.
Minus, what, 12
12.
times... Oh, hang on. You know what? I wrote this down wrong. Time isn't 12. Time is 6. Good thing I caught that, because that's a problem. 6, yes?
Yeah.
All over 0.5, 6. You know what? I might be able to do this in my head, because 12 times 6 is 72. This is 96 take away 72, which is 26 take away 24. 24? 24. Dividing by 0.5, that's the same as timesing by 2. This is 48 over 36. Divide by 12, divide by 4 over... is the answer 1.333? Oh, I may be off. Am I on? Woohoo! Final thing, Cody, units.
Oh, units, MS?
What are we finding?
Acceleration.
So what's acceleration measured in? This is why, by the way, this is why it's worth memorizing the units. Say it, you're right.
Newton seconds squared.
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Okay. Find V final. Okay. See, again, here, I got to be honest, Evan. What did I find, Cody, in part A?
Where we find part A,
Yeah.
acceleration.
I would really probably, in my homework, do this. Because I found part A in A, and the V final is already by itself, and they gave me VI, and they gave me T. I would probably do it that way. In fact, you know what? I'm going to just test it that way really, really quick. I'm going to see if 12 plus 1.33333 times 6. Did you guys get 20? I'm guessing the answer is supposed to be 20. But you know what? I'll do it the long, yucky way. Because if I don't want to use A, the equation I have to use is my least favorite, this one. Which is the only other one that I also have to write down because I can't really rewrite it in my head very well because it's complicated. And apparently I'd be wanting to get the VF by itself. How would I do that? Joseph, what's this 1 doing to the bracket? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, or divide? But you know what? Does dividing by 1 change anything? So I say, what about this 2? What's this 2 doing on the bottom of the fraction? What does that mean it's doing? So how will I move it over? Okay. What about, because the VF is inside the brackets, so I'll deal with inside the brackets last. What's this T doing? How will I move it over? So right now, as an intermediate step, I get this. 2D over T equals VI plus VF. Joseph, what am I trying to get by itself? So what will I do with this VI? Watch this. Huh? Wasn't that clever? Wasn't that clever? Come on, that was kind of good. And you'll notice, because I did it after I divided, is the VI divided by the T? No. This is tied with the other one for as ugly as it's going to get. All right, VF, I hope I get 20 doing this as well. It's going to be 2 times 96 divided by 6 plus 12. 2 times 96 divided by 6. Not plus 12, Mr. Dewick. Copy the equation down right, Jared, right? Minus 12. 20, which I knew by doing it the shorter way. Yep. The only risk you're taking is if you got part A wrong, you're going to get part B wrong. However, I would give you full marks for part B. If you did it correctly, I would walk through your wrong value and still give you full marks. Or let's suppose I gave you this same question and you couldn't do part A, you blanked, but you knew you could get part B. If you wrote a little note to me, Mr. Dewick, I'm going to assume the acceleration is 5 meters per second squared, and you walked through part B correctly, I give you full marks. I always do that. Have I done my rant about the only thing that annoys me is leaving a test blank? That's what gets me grumpy. Because a lot of the time you can make some assumptions if you can't find a two-step question. Yep.
How come you manipulated the half for A? You put it under dividing it by 0.5, but then for B you did times 2.
Okay. Dividing by 1/2.
It equals the same thing.
It equals the same thing. Now, did I have more than one thing on the top up here? So if I had wanted to put the 2 on the top, I would have had to put a 2 bracket, and it would have looked even uglier. Now, that's a great question, by the way, but now we're way in the back of the rule book already. This is me saying, not only am I rewriting these equations, I'm going to choose to rewrite them in ways that are less terrifying.
So basically, if there's only one on the top, then
I make it a 2, yeah.
Okay.
And you'll note when I flip-flop back and forth. You'll kind of figure out when I do and when I don't.
Yeah. Which one
Yep. Hey, let's design a jet, or actually an airport. This wants us to find D equals. It says the jet starts at rest. V final is 84. A is 3.75. I'm going to use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. Put your phone away, Jaden, if you're going to sit over there. A equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A, right? Right. It's going to be 84 squared minus 0 squared all over 2 times 3.75. I can't do this one in my head. 84. Do I need to type minus 0 squared? Will that actually change the question at all? So I'm not going to bother. But there's more than one thing on the bottom. Do you get 941? Yep. Units, distance, meters. Just shy of a kilometer. And RCMP car crash says, how fast was the car moving? It's really asking me to find VI. What did we decide in any car crash? What's V final? Okay, I'm not going to tell you that. Looks like I see a distance of 42.5. Looks like I see a time of 1.6. I think I'm going to have to use this bad boy. Although, what's V final? So here, I'm going to do the same trick. I'm going to keep the 1/2, Dylan, a 1/2. I'm going to say dividing by 2 is the same as timesing by 2. Timesing by t is the same as dividing by t. Because since I canceled out the VF, really, I've inadvertently canceled out the brackets anyways, because now there's only one thing in the brackets, which means it doesn't make a difference. I get this. VI is 2 times d over t. It's going to be 2 times 42.5 over 1.6. 2 times 42.5 divided by 1.6. You get 53.1? Meters per second. 2 marks. Can you give yourself a lovely score at the top of the front page out of 20? And if you need to lawyer with me, now is the time. So picking up where we left off from last day, what's example 5? What's part A, Jaden asking me to find? Okay. What else do I know, my friend? What's VI? I don't think it's 0, and I don't think it's 1.6. That's what it left my hand at. That's when we started timing. That's my initial velocity. You okay with that, Jaden? It left my hand, so now it's in the air. It's in free fall. Jaden, what did we say acceleration was for anything that's in free fall, whether it's on the way up or on the way down? We don't care. Negative 9.8. And again, this is important. You'll notice I didn't give you that in the question. I'm going to, from now on, assume that if you notice it's in the air, it's accelerating at negative 9.8 meters per second squared. This isn't enough. There must be something else that I know. What else do I know? You know what? This distance here is just telling me how high above the ground I started. This is like the cliff height. I don't think I'm going to use that for a while. I will later. But what else do I know, Jaden, about the top? Sorry, final what? What's the final velocity at the top for a split second? Okay. Again, that I'm going to expect you to reason your way towards, because you'll notice that doesn't appear in the question. But now you've got some physics trigger words: stopped, at rest, dropped, another one, top, or highest, or maximum. Other words we can describe the top. Jaden, which equation has T, VI, A, and VF in it? There is one. Can you get the T by itself? You'd be correct. You get a little nerdy adrenaline rush for doing that? Huh? No? Okay. Should have. That's like better than hitting the banking 3, which I've seen you also do. Never mind. What's V final, Jaden? 0, you say? Don't all just rush at once. What's V initial, Jaden? What's A? Negative 9.8. 0 minus 16.2 divided by negative 9.8. And I get, looks like it was in the air for 1.6, sorry, it was to get to the top 1.65 seconds. B. Ethan, what's B asking me to find? Which is what in terms of the, okay. Ethan, this is meant to be really obvious. Don't get confused. Did I turn the page? No. You know what? I'm not going to re-defic that. I've got all my data in the top question. And we're still talking about at the top. Now, if they'd changed the time or something, then I might relist everything. But I got it all there. Ethan, which equation can I use? I'm looking for one that has VI, A, VF, and D. I could use time, but that's going to guarantee, I'll try and avoid it if I can. Is there an equation that has a D, a VI, an A, and a VF in it, my friend? Yep. Can you get the D by itself in your head?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
D equals VX squared.
Yep.
VX squared.
Isn't that a nice way to do it? Less work and less memorizing. That's like a double win. Keep going, Ethan. What's V final?
0.
Minus. What's V initial?
That's
2.
-2.
0 squared minus 16. I probably didn't need to type the 0 squared, but I did. Divided by 2 times negative 9.8. I get 13.4. And this is wrong. Dylan is bursting out to tell me why this is wrong. Dylan, why is this wrong? Yeah, this would be if we started on ground level. Did we start on ground level? This, in fact, whenever you're finding maximum height, what you're really finding is how high above where you released it the ball went. So if you release it on the ground, you're done. Did we release it on the ground? So, you know what? I'm going to say height equals 13.4 plus 1.6. Oh, I can do that in my head. Is it 15 even? Okay. So now we can be a little more accurate. C. What's the final velocity of the ball when it reaches its original release point? That's worded awkwardly for a reason. I don't want you to find the final velocity when it hits the ground, because that would mean it had fallen further than I threw it in the first place. I mean that you can do this question in your head, showing no work whatsoever. No, that's after it hits the ground, Captain Obvious. I'll never want 0 as an answer.
Negative 16.2.
Why would you say negative 16.2? Because what goes up must come. Okay? Now, if I had said, Cody, what's its velocity when it hits the ground, then I would say, I'll start from the top. What's VI at the top? 0. How far does it travel? Negative 15 meters. A is negative 9.8. I could calculate how fast it hits the ground at, but I didn't ask that. The toughest question is this one here, example 6. We're going to finish with this. And I may show you, if you've heeded my advice and gotten a decent calculator, something that will be hugely useful in Math 11. Pardon me? That's coming too. It's coming too. Robbie, what's example 6 asking me to find? Thanks for turning the page and following along. What's example 6 asking us to find? Yep. Took enough time to figure that out, but yeah. Okay. By the way, in Physics 12, most of the time, you'll end up finding time. That's the phrase that I use with my Physics 12s. I tell them, most of the time, we're going to spend most of our time finding time, because that's the toughest one to find, it turns out. Robbie, what else do I know? Which one? Initial or final?
Initial.
What's VI? I agree. Are we in free fall? Say yes. Then I know the acceleration. What's the acceleration? Got to be fussy, not quite. Yes, negative. What else do I know? What is D? Careful. It's not 82.
82 plus
Nope.
whatever.
Are we on a cliff? Yeah? Is the ball going to end up above or below from where it started? How could I tell the universe that it's ending up below? How do we show that? If you didn't catch that it's negative 82, you would actually get an error later on in your calculator. You'd find that you were trying to take the square root of a negative. The universe, Robbie, would be telling you, hey, wait a minute. You've told me that we're falling down. We're accelerating down. But somehow you're telling me we ended up above from where we started? That's impossible. Okay. Robbie, I'm looking for by the way, do me a favor, folks. Write a line, a long line, right down the middle of your page. And you're going to see why in just a second. Robbie, I'm looking for an equation that has T, VI, A, and D in it. This one. Right? What am I trying to find, Robbie? Problem. How many T's are there in this equation? Ah! You see, the problem is, if I get this T by itself, I would do that by minusing this T squared over. I haven't got a T, I don't know what T squared is. Or I can try and get the T squared by itself, but then I'll end up with a T on the other side. There is no way to solve this. Ah! I think there is, because I think you guys just learned in Math 11 how to solve this. What kind of an equation is this with a squared in it? This is a quadratic. You guys are just doing quadratic equations right now? Okay? The only way to solve it is to make it equal to 0 first. I'm going to minus the D over. And I'm going to write it in the same order that you guys see in math. So I'm going to go like this. 0 equals a half AT squared plus VIT minus D. That's so that it looks, this is the one you guys are familiar with in math, right? The squared, then the x, then the number. So I'm doing that with the t, the same idea. And this is where my whole formula manipulation stick breaks down. We now have to plug in numbers. 0 equals 0.5 negative 9.8 t squared plus 18t. Oh, Robbie, what's d? What would negative d be then? Yeah, that's why I had to jump on you to make sure you get the sign right. Okay. I can do one more thing. What is 0.5 times negative 9.8? It's going to be negative. What is 0.5 times negative 9.8? Crunch it quickly. Okay, good. So here is our equation. What kind of an equation is this, Jared? It's a quadratic. How do I know? It's got a squared. We can't get the t by itself. However, have you guys learned the quadratic formula just like in the last 2 days, I think? X equals, t equals negative b plus or minus the square b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We're not going to do that. You can. Some of you might have a quadratic solver built in on your calculator. All of you get your calculators out. What'd you get for t? You got one negative answer, right? What'd you get?
I didn't get a negative answer.
Negative 2.6. What?
4,
4.
7.
Rounded off properly. Okay. Can time be negative? So in physics, we chuck that answer. In math, you'll want that answer, but in physics, we chuck that answer. And then you hopefully got a positive answer. I'll go 6.321. Mr. Dewick. What, Evan? What if I don't have the quadratic solver? You can still go x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Or show you another way that works. What did I ask you to find? Put your phone away, Cody. What did I ask you to find in this question? What did I ask you to find in this question?
Time.
Instead of finding time, before you find time, find v final. Is there an equation that has v initial, a, d, and v final in it? There is.
Yeah, for 0.
No, that's after it hits the ground, Captain Obvious. I guarantee you VF when you hit the ground is not 0. Otherwise, I wouldn't have needed a parachute when I jumped out of an airplane. Imagine I jumped out of an airplane. So get that out of your head. VF is not 0. That's the trivial after it hits the ground. VF, what I'm talking about is that one. What is an equation that has VF, VI, A, and D in it? There is one.
Why can't we use the equation?
No, I'm saying if you don't have the solver and you don't know T. What's the equation? Someone please tell me. Adim.
VF squared equals VI squared plus 2.
Although this doesn't have the VF quite by itself. This has VF squared. Oh, wait a minute. Adim, how to get rid of a squared? Okay. We're going to find VF. And once we find VF, we can use that to find T very easily. So how am I going to find VF? It's going to be the square root of 18 squared plus 2, negative 9.8, negative 82. Robbie, do you remember I said to you, if you didn't put the negative there, you'd accidentally end up, because what's a negative times a negative? If you didn't put the negative there, you'd end up with a negative square root. Your calculator would barf at you, and you'd have, so it'd be saying, I can't do what you're asking. Try typing that into your Oh, is this a big yucky square root? We said we'll type the whole thing, press equals, and then go square root, answer button. I can do that. Square root. You get 43.94542, blah, blah, blah. And this is wrong. This has to be wrong. Why must this be wrong? Yeah. We're going down. What did we get as an answer? If our velocity is heading down, what should the answer be? So now I can explain something else. Your math teacher may have told you this year that when you take the square root of something, what do you have to actually remember? Something about plus or minus 2 possible answers? And the reason that there are 2 possible answers, which we tend to ignore in math, is in physics, actually, the reason there has to be also a negative possible answer is it could be falling down. So the only difficulty with this, Duncan, is I have to add the negative. The answer, V final, is negative 43.945. Why does that help? Because now, Ariel, I have V final. I have A. I have V initial. I can find time without using D, the quadratic equation. Is there an equation that has V final, V initial, A, and T in it? Yes. In fact, it now becomes T equals VF minus VI over A. And if I'm lucky, Jaden, I hope I'll get 6.321 seconds. The same answer as using the solver or the quadratic formula. Negative answer button. Wasn't that clever? Huh? Wasn't that? Because that's how I make the negative 43 point. Minus, what was VI? You know what, Mr. Duick? Write out the numbers. It's going to be negative 43.945 minus 18 divided by negative 9.8. Oh, I hope this works. I think it will. I hope it will. I think it will. Minus 18 divided by negative 9.8. What am I hoping to get? 6.321 seconds. The same as doing it the quadratic solver way, Mariah. What did I get? 6.32. And you know what? That should be a 1. That's a 1. 6.321 seconds. I get, Jared, the same answer either way. You can, if you get good at the quadratic formula, which you are just learning in math right now, you can use that. If you have a quadratic solver, I would totally do it the left-hand way. You'll still have to make the equation equal to 0 and do a bit of rearranging. Or you can find V final using VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD square root. Make it negative because you know you're hitting the ground going down. Find T. Speaking of Freefall, Mr. Duick has a video. What's your homework? Everything except I'm going to be giving you time next class as well. So don't freak out right now, but put your pencils down.